Hello, and thanks for tuning in to Town Meeting TV's coverage of General Election 2024. My name is Drew Darrow. This program is part of a series of candidate forums hosted by Town Meeting TV in advance of the primary election on Tuesday, August 13th. You can find all of our forums at cctv.org/primary or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel, where auto-generated captions are available. If you're tuning in on YouTube, click the subscribe button to stay tuned into local democracy for this election season. On tonight's program, we will hear from Gregory Thayer and John Rodgers, Republican candidates for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to have you all here. We have prepared a list of questions for each of you, and you will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Rebuttals will only be allowed if a candidate is named directly, in which case the candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. If you are tuning in live, we also welcome your questions at 802-862-3966. If you call in live, we will do our best to prioritize your question, though we will screen calls to ensure questions are not repeated. We ask that you share your name, the town you live in, and have your question directed at all candidates, not just one. You can submit questions for future forums at online at cctv.org/primary. So first we'll get started with 1-minute opening statements. And Gregory, would you like to begin?
Yes. So I'm Gregory Thayer from Rutland, and I am a lifelong Vermonter and a proud Vermont Republican. I'm a father of 5 children, 5 grandchildren, another one in the oven coming in end of August. I work as a financial auditor, reviewer, and I have a master's degree in accounting. I worked 23 years in banking, the last 15, 16 in accounting audit work, and I have a small tax practice that I've been doing since 1996. It sounds like a long time ago. I'm running because of what's going on in Montpelier, and I'm not liking the direction that the Democrat Socialist leadership is bringing us. And I am, my campaign is about you, we the people, listening to you. And I've toured the state doing town halls on different issues facing Vermonters. So I'm here tonight to discuss the questions that we have with John, and so that you're informed. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank
Drew.
you, Gregory. And John, please.
Yes, hello, I'm John Rodgers, and I'm running to be Vermont's next Lieutenant Governor, to be a voice for working class and blue collar Vermonters who I believe have been forgotten in the State House for far too long. I grew up on a dairy farm in West Glover, Vermont, that farm that's been in my family since the early 1800s. I've made my living in agriculture, forestry, and in the trades. I have my own small business specializing in dry stone work and excavation. I served in the State House for 16 years, 8 in the Senate and 8 in the House of Representatives, and I have a long record of working across party lines for the benefit of the working people of Vermont. I am supported and endorsed by our current governor because he wants a lieutenant governor that he can work with to help stop the overspending in Montpelier and try to bring forth legislation that helps working class Vermonters and stops the steady increase in cost of living.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you, Gregory. So since we don't have any calls yet, I'm going to start with the first question. And Gregory, you'll have 90 seconds. Then we'll go to John, you'll have 90 seconds. And so for the first question, property taxes and education. This year, many Vermonters will see double-digit increase in their property taxes, and nearly a third of school budgets failed on town meeting day. As Lieutenant Governor, how would you approach education funding and property taxes for the coming fiscal year?
I think the first thing we need to do is we need to cut back on a lot of the administrators. We're basically management heavy. We have too many administrators, and we're more focused on that, and we're not focused on the children, the kids, and what they're learning, the curricula that they're learning. Children need to be learning the 3 R's and real history, real math, and real science, and preparing them for life. Not all this other stuff that goes on in the schools. Education funding is a mess, and we need to address education funding. We need to revamp the entire system. I have a proposal that we're working on, we're putting out there. I do see some other questions that may relate to it, but Total consumption tax, get rid of the property tax, get rid of the income tax, get rid of the payroll tax, go to a consumption tax. We can do that, and we've looked at all the facets, all the negatives surrounding it, and I've had better people than me looking at it, some economists, and it's doable, and I think it needs some good hearing, some good debate, some good discussion, because what we're doing, Drew, is not working. We're killing taxpayers, and that's not good. It's not good for Vermont. It's not good for our future, and Vermont's the best place to live, work, and play.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And John?
Yeah, the unsustainable increases in the property tax this year and quite frankly over the last 10 or 15 years are due to a lack of strategic planning by legislators. Anybody that was paying attention should have seen this coming. And what I believe we need to do is start from scratch and build a system from the ground up. This system has been tweaked many times over the years. Nobody can understand it because it's such a convoluted formula, and we need to address what I see as too heavy on administration. We have a lot of cities around the country that have a larger population than the state of Vermont that have one supervisory union. What I don't want to see is schools cutting teachers and staff. They are the worker bees that are doing the real work on the ground that are having the effect on the children. And as most people know, so much more than just teaching is asked of our teachers these days. There are so many other issues that they're dealing with, and they need to be allowed to teach, which means they need good support staff in the room with them. But I think the basic key is to start from scratch and build a system that provides a solid education for our children, but it has to be a system that we can afford. And currently, with the increases in property taxes, Vermonters have gotten to a place where they don't believe they can afford it anymore.
Great. Thank you both for answering that. And so let's move on to the second question, which is about housing and emergency shelter. Vermont reported 3,295 people experiencing homelessness in 2023, up from 1,110 in 2020. This summer, the state is rolling back its pandemic-era emergency shelter capacity across the state, pushing hundreds more Vermonters onto the streets. How would you approach the need for housing and emergency shelter, and how should we pay for it? So, John, I'll let you start with this one.
Sure. So I think one of the things that causes some of the homelessness is the cost of living in Vermont. And if we don't address the dramatic increases in taxes, utilities, and other fees and costs for homeowners, I think we're going to find more people losing their apartments and losing their homes. So the first thing I want to do as Lieutenant Governor is work with the legislators and with the governor to figure out ways to address the education tax and some of the other things that are adding burden to homeowners. They really need, most of the folks that are homeless need wraparound services. So we have to have interagency cooperation and try to figure out what the underlying issues are. Why are they homeless? Do they have mental illness? Do they have substance abuse? And try to connect them with the treatment and the support that they need. The ultimate goal should be to try to take as many of the folks off the street as we possibly can with wraparound support services and get them into a job where they can feel good about themselves and provide themselves a living and afford to put a roof over their head. The problem is it's super hard to build affordable housing today. Construction costs are out of control, and it costs $400,000 to $500,000 per unit to build most affordable housing. And so we have to figure out ways to get the cost down and the overall cost of living in Vermont down.
Great, thank you. And Gregory?
Thank you. Great question. To me, it's a lot about the regulation, or I call the overregulation, the burdensome that the state, led by the leaders under the Gold Dome in Montpelier, the regulations that they've applied, and it's hurt the housing industry, and it's very expensive to build. It's very expensive to build to get the permits to do it. Builders, contractors want to do. I think if we reduce those regulations, those in taxes on everything, which will help reduce inflation and the cost of living here in Vermont, that we could, open it up, and that builders, contractors, investors would start investing money into our state, into our different areas to help this problem. But there's just too much regulation. I go back to the regulation. In terms of the emergency part about it, no, I think we've done a lot for so many people, and there's just so much that we're doing. We can't afford to keep paying all these bills. There's a lot of jobs out there. I think employers are paying good money, and I just firmly believe that we need to help people, rise them up, and make them an asset in the community. And I believe there are a lot of services to help. John mentions wraparound. It's the same thing that, there's services to help people, get them education, what they need, maybe a ride to the doctors, ride to, employment. I think pod housing has to be looked at too for unfortunate, disabled people. And we need to look at, we need to look to help people. We don't want to leave people out in the cold by any means, but I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
John, your name was mentioned, so you can rebut, but it seems like you're in pretty much agreement on that.
Yeah, we're all set there.
Yeah.
I thought I saw a flash going
I
on there. Drew,
I know. I guess we took too
We're
long.
lighting up the lines, Greg.
Well, there was definitely something, but I guess we took too long. So so let me move on to our fourth question then. So criminal justice and public safety. This past session, lawmakers increased judicial staff, increased retail theft penalties, and expanded restorative justice practices in Vermont. What are your priorities to advance public safety and criminal justice reform? So, Gregory, I'll let you start with that.
I think we need to let law enforcement be law enforcement. And when they get out of control, get out of hand, and do something wrong or illegal, they get prosecuted themselves. But I think law enforcement does a lot of great things. We need to fund them. Here in Burlington, we saw the defund the police, and I think that hurt not just law enforcement, but the community at large. And I do support having mental health workers available to help out after everything is de-escalated, and they're working with the client or the perp, if you will. But I think that it's all about an understanding. So the officers right up on the scene, and there's a lot of chaos. They have to get that under control before they can do anything. But when you got somebody still being chaotic, it's hard to get under control. So sometimes it leads to handcuffs and put in the back of the car. We just saw a situation in Burlington this last week where a gentleman was a little unruly. He assaulted a police officer. Police officer ended up in the hospital. There's some stuff going on with that. But we need to protect our citizens and tourists who are coming to our great, beautiful state. And my daughter runs a business on the marketplace. And I was down there today, and I heard 2 or 3 stories, unsolicitedly, once they found out I was running for lieutenant governor, coming up, and saw people sleeping on the sidewalks. That's tough to see. It's tough to see as a person to begin with, because there's help out there, and I believe families need to get involved. But we need to get the legislature out of the law enforcement and out of the courts and let the courts do their thing.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great.
Drew.
Yeah, thank you. And John?
Sure, I think Vermonters feel much less safe than they did 20 years ago. I know even up in the Northeast Kingdom, everybody left their keys in their car, and their houses were never locked. And even up in our area now, we have crime sprees where streets get hit, and a whole bunch of houses get broken into. And just like Burlington, much of the crime is driven by drugs. Much of the violence is driven by people who are trafficking and dealing drugs. And just like you have shootouts and violence here in the downtown, we have it in Newport and St. Johnsbury and St. Albans and Rutland, and it's all over the state. So I think we really need to give the police and the judicial system the tools that they need to try to cut down as much as possible on the drug dealers, the drug traffickers, the gangs that are bringing these poisons into the state and that are causing so much of the violence. And we really need to help our retailers with these repeat offenders, because I've got a lot of friends in retail, and they've told me, there's a whole bunch of them that don't allow people with big bags or backpacks in anymore because they're losing so much stuff. They have more stuff locked up. They have to put the little safety devices on more stuff, and it's really hurting their business. And I've got friends in downtown Burlington here who say now that Burlington is seen as unsafe by many people, that their businesses are way off. Some of them are down 20%. And so it affects everybody. It affects families that want to come down here and be part of the great businesses here, but it hits the great businesses here right in the pocketbook.
Great, thank you. Thank you for answering that. So not seeing any calls yet, so we'll move to just being on the campaign trail. On the campaign trail, tell us about a conversation you've had on the campaign trail and how it connects with your campaign's priorities and values. And so I'll let John start with this one.
Sure. The number one issue on the campaign trail is cost of living, and people are now opening up their property tax bills, and they really feel like the legislature has stopped listening to regular people. And I spend some time in the State House, even though I haven't served for the last 4 years. I still do go down and work on legislation. And it seems that the legislators are working in a bubble, and they only talk with each other and with lobbyists. And lobbyists are hired by wealthy people and wealthy businesses. And so fewer and fewer regular people feel like they're being listened to. The cost of living, when compared to the income potential in Vermont, is one of the worst in the country, especially when you get into the rural areas like the Northeast Kingdom. Income potential is very low. Housing costs have skyrocketed. Property taxes have skyrocketed. The legislature added to the cost of people's electric bills and heating fuels, and it goes on and on. And so people are just feeling like they can't afford to live here any longer. And one of the reasons that I stepped up and got involved in the lieutenant governor's race is because I have grandchildren, and I'm worried that they're not going to be able to afford a house here based on the income that they can make in the area. And so either they're going to have to move away and find something that they can make enough money so that they can come back with money to afford to live here, or they will have to find a good job where they can telecommute or travel for their job. So it's a dramatic change from the way I grew up, and I really want to see Vermont's quality of life stay as it is, but I really hope that our young folks have a chance to live and work here like I did.
Great, thank you so much. So Gregory, something you've heard on the campaign trail?
Well, echo the same. It's about affordability, how Vermont is so unaffordable, and nobody in Montpelier is listening. And we've seen some evidence of that with with Senator, the Majority Leader, Bruce, talking, caught on videotape, talking about the same, and that they're not listening to people, and they don't care what the Republicans are going to do or say. They're going to keep going forward with their spending and their over-regulations. So people are concerned about that. People are really concerned about the Global Warming Solutions Act, the home heat standard, and the cost and what it's going to start costing. Plus you've got the property tax increase on average 13.8%. And then you had the 20% increase in DMV fees. And that the DMV didn't ask for, didn't want, and they just did it arbitrarily. And then there's the crime in the city centers. And what's going on, what I saw today. And one of my things with what's going on with the homeless and folks is the mental health issue, and that's important to me. And we're going to be rolling out an initiative on mental health, and I've talked with clinicians around the state and managers, and that's a serious issue, and it leads to a lot of these other things: the homelessness, no job, crime, drug abuse, and everything. So I think it's all interwound, Drew. It's all, John and I agree on that. It's all connected, and we need to change Montpelier to make the changes. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd ask if you want to rebut, but again, you're in agreement on it, so
We got another call that hung up? Can we start calling people?
Yeah. Usually when they get that far where my light starts blinking, they stay on, but I guess I didn't want to. So I'll move to the next question then. Okay. And so this next question is going to be about climate change. Vermont's greenhouse gas emissions per capita are among the highest in the Northeast, driven largely by heating and transportation. what is your plan to reduce Vermont's greenhouse gas emissions in those sectors? So Gregory, you'll get to go first on this one.
Yeah, I don't see a big issue with it, with our footprint. I know John, he put a bill together, S201 back in 2020 to curb or stop people with the greenhouse gas, which to me led to part of the Global Warming Solutions Act and everything. And to me, that's an issue because we have to get places. And wind and solar is never going to be enough energy to power our great state or our great nation. And I think we do a lot of great things in terms of the environment, of climate and everything, and we're all doing our own thing. I'm driving around right now with my windows open, with no air conditioning, and I'm sweating a little, but it's okay. It's beautiful out. And I just think that people need to take care of, do what they've got to do and take care of themselves. And I think I don't see a big problem with it. I know it's out there, and I know we hear about it and they talk about it, but I'm not a big climate guy in terms of that, if you will.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. So John, I'll let you have the 30 seconds to rebut because your name was
Yes,
mentioned.
absolutely.
And then the 60 to do the 90 to do the question.
Excellent, thank you. And I think Greg has some of his facts wrong. I'm not sure what bill he is referring to, but I did not support the so-called Global Solutions Act, and I actually was a staunch opponent of it. So I really disagree with much of what the legislature has done. I call it faux climate change policy because much of that policy that they've passed in the last 20 years has been regressive. It has hurt poor and working class people, and the money has been concentrated to the super wealthy who are doing the development. So that would be my rebuttal.
He mentioned my name, though. Can I?
I like to lead by example, and I have nearly 500 acres of farm and forest, and we work 7 days a week to keep it. It's about a $50,000 a year payment on the farm, and last year we paid $22,000 in property tax, and that's going to go up 16% this year. My land provides ecosystem services for thousands of Vermonters, yet I get nothing for it, no recognition that I'm doing the right thing by the planet. And we leave large sections of grassland that provide habitat for grassland birds. Many of them are threatened or endangered. We put in 20 or 30 acres of wildlife food plots that the wildlife, the birds, the pollinators, and beneficial insects take advantage of. So we're doing all this great climate work, but we get no benefit for it. And much of the legislature's so-called climate change work has put a huge cost burden onto Vermonters. Net metering, when it was first instituted, was at a rate of 21 cents a kilowatt hour when we could buy Hydro-Quebec power for 6 cents a kilowatt hour. And every time you see solar panels on a person's house, all the people who don't have solar panels are helping to subsidize that. And much of that money is going to the developers. So I want to see real change. I want to see more solar panels, number one, that are built in America, because I don't believe in using Chinese solar panels, but I want to see them on the built environment, on parking lots and on roofs, and not put out in farm fields.
Yeah, great, thank you. And yes, now you can, please.
Here's a bill that John introduced back in 2020, S201, and it's Conservation and Development of Air Pollution Control and Greenhouse Gases. So that's the bill we're citing, and it's in our compare and contrast piece as well. So I just, maybe my good friend can reread that, check it out. And I know and I'm sorry. I know he didn't support. He voted no to sustain the governor's veto in September of 2020 to sustain the governor's veto on the Global Warming Solutions Act. I do know that. And I did spoke on that in Barry and everything. And he wasn't there for the initial vote earlier in the year. But yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
John, I'll let you have 30 seconds, and then we do have a call.
Excellent. No, and I would just like to say what that bill is actually about. That bill says that every person should be responsible for their own carbon emissions, trying to get to the fact that I was just pointing out. With my farm, I'm providing ecosystem services for thousands of Vermonters and getting no benefit. Why should I have to pay such a huge tax burden when I'm providing all these services for Vermonters, when many people in Vermont are producing tons of carbon and don't have any trees or fields that sequester carbon?
Great, thank you. So yes, we do have a call. They're waiting online, so I will go to them. Hi, thank you for calling in. Could I have your name, the town you live in, and a question for both of our candidates?
Yeah, my name is Chris. I live in Burlington, in the downtown core, and we have a number of people here that are struggling with houselessness because they have a chronic mental health condition or substance use disorder for which they have been unable to seek treatment. And when I talk with the clinicians and the folks on the street outreach teams, the thing I keep hearing over and over again is we simply just do not have enough bed capacity to get folks into treatment who want to get it. And so my question to the candidates is, what would you do to build out the bed capacity, to increase bed capacity so that folks who want to get treatment can actually get it here in the state of Vermont?
Great, thank you so much for your call, and I'm going to pass it off to the candidates. So John, increasing housing bed capacity.
Yeah, that is a great question, and we know that's a great need for both people with substance abuse disorder as well as people with mental health. There are some community organizations like Jenna's Promise that are doing some great work. They've just purchased another property up in Derby, hoping to get another place set up there to provide beds and treatment. I'm not, I haven't been in the legislature for the last 4 years. It's a complex issue, and it requires a lot of funding, and so we're going to have to prioritize and figure out what is the best way to provide wraparound services and housing for these people in need to get them back on their feet.
Great, thank you, John. And Gregory.
Yeah, there's a lot of great private organizations out there that are doing stuff like this and trying to build more unit, more capacity to help the folks that are in need. And we have to help them. We have to help them and give them a hand up, not a hand out. We need to, the wraparound services that John mentioned, and the different things that they may need, from basic health care to hygiene to a ride to a job interview. That's what the pod housing stuff that I talked about. I'm not sure the gentleman's question, if some of these folks would fit into that program like that. I'm not sure at what level they're at, if they can operate on their own or they need daily assistance. But those are things that we need to do. We have a little pod housing here that's going on in Burlington. Oregon's been very successful with a pod housing, and they're getting mental health counseling, and they're getting job training, stuff like that. So, thank you.
Yeah, great, thank you. So next up, we have lightning round questions. I'm a big fan of lightning round questions.
We are too.
I'm gonna run through them. 10 seconds, yes or no's for them.
Okay.
So I'll start with John. We'll go Gregory, and then we'll just back and forth.
However you want to do it.
All right. So should private schools be funded by public dollars? John.
No.
Yes.
Do you think?
I think the money should follow the student.
Do you think Vermont should raise the age of family court jurisdiction?
I don't know a lot about that, but I think children are children. If they're still under their parents' tutelage and they're in school, and then I think they should be treated in that capacity.
I would say no.
All right. Should biomass, burning wood, play a role in emission reduction strategies? John.
Yes.
There's so many Vermonters that burn wood. I don't know if you're ever going to stop them, so I'm going to say no.
All right. So do you support overdose prevention centers, Gregory?
No.
John.
That, to me, isn't a yes or no question. I support any means of providing treatment for people with substance abuse disorder, and whatever is the most economical and works best in the state.
Can I just add that this doesn't stop the overdoses, though. It's rewarding people to go in and use these drugs. We supply everything.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to keep us on that 10 seconds.
But
where do you get your news?
A lot of different places. You know, I do watch some CNN, MSNBC, Burlington Free Press, Rutland Herald, Fox News. You know, I do a lot of different things because I want to know what the other side's saying. So it's varied.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think varied is the best way. I use WCAX, CBS, VPR, BBC, and then read various articles from various papers and magazines.
I also like Vermont Daily Chronicles. And
I'm sure Town Meeting TV.
Oh, yes.
I don't get you guys in Rutland, but I do watch our PEG TV in Rutland.
But now that I know where you are, we can look you up on YouTube.
Yeah, we can get you on
Perfect.
YouTube.
So, John, will you support the Republican nominee if you do not win this primary?
The Republican nominee for this
For
position,
Lieutenant Governor, yes.
I guess it would depend who else gets into the race. There still may be an independent, but I always try to listen to everybody, and I'll try to pick the best candidate.
Yes, I will. I'm a Republican through and through, and if John wins, I will support him. Like I did 2 years ago, I was asked with my opponent then, but unfortunately he went really negative on me, so I did not. But I think John and I get along pretty well, and I think we have the same ideals.
So, very Vermont question for the last lightning round question. What's your favorite ice cream in Vermont, Gregory?
I used to love, some in Rutland, but Pop's Place, but I guess it'd be Wilcox. I like the Wilcox. I also like Stewart's ice cream. It's a local store. They're out of New York, but they do use some Vermont farms for milk on that western coast, if you will. So,
John?
I like all of it.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
I like that answer.
Great. So thank you very much for doing the lightning rounds. I'm gonna move on to healthcare. Actually, we're running out of time. So
Whoa.
I'm gonna go ahead and bring us to 30-second closing statements. And so Gregory, do you want to do your 30-second closing statement, and then I'll let John?
Yep. Hi, and thank you for watching tonight. I'm Gregory Thayer from Rutland. I'm a Republican for Lieutenant Governor, and I'm a proud common sense Republican, a Vermont Republican. Drew, thank you, and to CCTV, Town Hall TV here in Burlington. Go watch it on YouTube. And my campaign is about you, we the people, and I'm going to fight for you like I've done over the last 4 or 5 years across the state, doing town hall meetings, listening to people, and bringing those concerns to legislators. So with that, thank you. Again, I appreciate being here. And Gregory Thayer for Vermont Lieutenant Governor. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you. And John, 30-second closing statement.
I'm John Rodgers, and I'm running to be your next Lieutenant Governor because I want to be a voice for working class Vermonters. I want to be able to bring their concerns to the State House and fight for you because I don't believe that has happened in the last number of years. Governor Scott is supporting me because he knows he can count on me. We've worked together for many years. I have the experience to get the job done, and I want to use the position to promote Vermont issues, unlike the current Lieutenant Governor who uses it to promote his own platform. Thank you.
Great, and I really appreciate you both being here. Thank you for taking the time. I'm going to do the wrap-up script, and thank you again. Thank you for tuning into Town Meeting TV's ongoing coverage of local candidates, local budgets, and ballot items. You can find this and many other forums on cctv.org/primary on our Town Meeting YouTube channel. Don't forget to cast your ballot in the primary election on or before August 13th. Then tune in to Town Meeting TV's results recap show the following day. Contact your local clerk and find out more on how to obtain a ballot and register to vote. In Vermont, you can register to vote on Election Day. Thank you for watching and sharing this time with Town Meeting TV.